Hey everyone, this is Ms. Fisher, and this is a help video for Repl Lab 8-4 matrix summing. So in class we talked about how we're going to declare a private instance variable named Matt. So at the top, just make sure that you've got private as the access, and it is of data type 2D and called Matt. You declare it at the top of the class, and then in the constructor, which always has the same name as the class, this takes one parameter, which is of type 2D int array, and give it any parameter variable. I'm going to call it M, and I just have to assign the instance variable to that parameter. Now here, what we're going to do is we are going to add up the numbers given a location of an element in this 2D array. So the parameter names are row and col, and we want to add up the numbers around that cell at row col and the number itself. So let's take a look at this example here. Suppose that we had this 2D int array, and we have 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 0, 1, 2, and so forth. Okay. If we chose the location row get 2, col get 2, then that would mean that we would have to add up the numbers. So think about that nested loop. So I can think about the nested loop for int. Let's use R. And where are we going to begin? Well, at 2, 2, we're going to add up this row, and then this row, right? At these columns here, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So we're going to begin with row 1, right? So how can we think about row 1? Well, row 1 is 1 less than what row is. Okay, so let's go ahead and just say row minus 1, right? And we're going to go from row 1 and then row 2. See, this is 1, 2, and then 3. So this is a row that was given, so we want to start with 1 less than the row given row and go to 1 more than the given row. So initialize that row minus 1 while I is less than or equal to row plus 1 and then R plus plus. Okay, it's kind of messy. There you go. That's extremely messy. Sorry about that. So we're going to begin at row minus 1, and we're going to go up to and include row plus 1. So in this case, it would begin at row 1, then row 2, then row 3. And then we begin with another loop, which is our inner loop. And where's column going to begin? Well, column is going to begin at column 1, which is 1 less than the given column, which is 2. So we're going to do the same thing here. Column minus 1, C less than or equal to col plus 1, C plus plus. Okay, then we'll go ahead and add. We need a sum. We're going to declare sum variable, right? A local variable, and we're going to keep adding to it, accumulating the sum. So this would be something like sum plus gets. The name would be Matt, that's the instance variable, R, and C. Okay, so remember, row and column are kind of like constants here, and then R and C are the iteration variables. Those are what is changing in this method. But the problem is when we've got a cell which is not at in the middle of the 2D array, but what about if it's at the edge? So in this case, what about if I pick, instead of 2, 2, I pick 0, 0? Well, if I subtract 1 from 0, then that's going to be a problem, because then I'm at row negative 1 and I'm out of bounds. So this R value here can't begin at row minus 1. So this value and this value, okay, and the same thing with col minus 1, col plus 1, we've got to be careful that we never get less than 0. We also have to be careful, for example, suppose my location was at 0, 1, 2, 3. Suppose it was at row 3, column 3, right? Then in that case, we've got to make sure that at row plus 1 and col plus 1, we've got to ensure that it never gets past the 3, right? Which is, in this case, the last row, which is here, and the last column, which is here. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Let's take a look at our program. Now that we've thought about this nested loop, okay, I'm going to declare my local variable, and we're going to return it at the end. And we know we've got our nested loop. Okay, and let's just begin with this, and then we're going to modify it. Okay, and this is going to be r minus 1. Okay, r less than or equal to row plus 1, and we're going to need to modify it because when we write this, we're going to get an out of bounds error. Okay, then let's think about how we can modify this. Call minus 1, c less than or equal to call plus 1, c plus plus, and then sum plus gets, and then mat, the name of the 2D array, r, c. Okay, so when we run our program, we see that it works for 2, 2, but it doesn't work for the second test if you take a look at it, which would be 0, 0. And it wouldn't have worked for 3, 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and think about how to change this. We got to go back to this here. Now, instead of always starting at row minus 1, why don't I call this row min row? And this will be our min max row. And I'm going to call minus 1 my min call. And I'm going to call plus 1 our max call. So we're going to assign those local variables here. Okay, int min row, int max row, int min call, int max. Oops. Okay, now we know that it's either going to be row minus 1, the min row, or 0, right? Because if row minus 1 is less than 0, then we want to begin at row 0. Okay, so if we go back to this Jamboard here, if it was 0, 0, what we would want to do here is for the case where we had row and call 0, 0, we would not want to begin at row plus or row minus 1. Instead of beginning at row minus 1, I want to begin at 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to row 1. Okay, and the same thing here. We don't want to begin at minus 1. We're going to begin at 0. And then here we would go until it's less than or equal to 1. So it looks like if the number is less than 0, then I want to actually just begin at 0. So it ends up being, we can do this using that math static method, whatever is bigger. Which one is bigger? Math.max. Okay, if 0 is bigger than row minus 1, then we want to assign it to 0. Okay, and the same thing with min call. If we're gonna, if row or call minus 1 ends up being a negative number, then we want it to be 0 because 0 is bigger than a negative number. Now let's think about max. Well, max is going to be either row plus 1, but again, we don't want it to get bigger than the last row. And how do we get how many rows there are? Well, we're going to call on mat.length minus 1, right? Because we index beginning at 0. So if row is, say in this case, if we're at row 4, if call was 3, or row is 3, okay, then we know that there is not a row 4, and so we would want to end at row 3. Okay, so it's going to be the minimum in this case. We want to actually get the minimum, so we're going to call it math.min of either row plus 1 or mat.length minus 1. So in our example, mat.length minus 1 was 3. So if this number ends up being 4, We don't want to put 4 here or else we'll get an out of bounds. So we would just go up to and include row 3, which is mat.length minus 1. And for min call, it would be really similar to, max call would be similar to max row. We would do max dot min of either call plus 1 or mat index 0, right? Index 0, that gives you the number of columns in the first row, and we're assuming it's a rectangular array, and then dot length minus 1. Okay. So now let's go ahead and make sure we don't have any syntax errors. Yep, I forgot. This is max row. There we go. Let's try it again. All right. So if you check the values here, you can see they match. Okay. And if you run the test, then you should be able to pass all the tests. All right, I hope this was helpful. And if you have any more questions, just let me know. Bye, everyone.